Hello class, my name is Megan Roy, and today I'm going to be talking to you about what some of the food companies in America are doing to our food. We've all been there, tired after a long day of work. The thought of going home and cooking or prepping a meal can be daunting. And with fast food being more convenient than ever, it's hard to make the right choices when it comes to eating. In this speech, I will be discussing what process food really goes through in America. Also, what will happen to us if we continue to head down this road that we're on. And finally, what we can do to kick this junk food habit and to get on the road to healthier alternatives. Right now, we are in one of the biggest public health epidemics of our time. America has over 600,000 food products. Of those 600,000 food products, 80% of them have added sugar. When you consume sugar, your brain lights up as it would if you took cocaine. So sugar is just as much of a drug as any, and it can be very addictive. Sugar companies and junk food companies have blamed these problems on people, saying that they don't have the willpower, and they're basically saying it's your fault for being fat. When in reality, these companies aren't taking responsibility. They're doing the same thing that tobacco companies did back in the 1950s. And it turns out that sugar companies were doing this long before tobacco companies, so really they've been bouncing these tactics off of each other for decades. These companies, they're not in business for a healthy America. They're in business to make money. The amount of sugar in our foods is no accident. Food companies coined the term bliss point. And the best way I can describe a bliss point is, say you're drinking a cup of coffee and you like to put milk in it. You put a little bit of milk into it, and you're like, oh, this is alright. You put a little bit more milk into it, and you're like, oh, this is perfect. But if you put more milk into it, you're like, no, this is gross, it has too much milk in it. Food companies are trying to get their products to the point of that perfect medium where it's delicious and craveable and as enjoyable as possible without overdoing it or saturating it with sugar or anything else. And it's also, let's use an example, can of Coke. Can of Coke has approximately 10 teaspoons of sugar in it. If you drink a can of soda per day, any can of soda, you drank that one a day for a year, you would consume approximately 50 pounds of sugar. And you would also gain about 15.5 pounds worth of weight. It's no secret. So I've briefly described what some of these sugar companies are doing to our foods. Now I'm going to discuss what's going to happen if we continue down this path that we're on right now. It is projected that in 2 decades, 95% of Americans will be overweight or obese. By 2050, 1 of 3 Americans will have diabetes. These conditions also lead to heart disease, lipid problems, strokes, cancer. And currently, our children right now are the first generation in history that have a life expectancy shorter than their parents. We could cure about 80% of these problems if we change the food in schools. They're filled with nothing but junk food high in sodium, fat, and sugar. One big food company was even quoted saying tomato paste found in the ketchup packets that they serve is a vegetable. Children consume nearly half their meals at school, so it is of the utmost importance that we fix the problem there first. So how can we turn this around? How can we find alternatives? I believe we can. Fixing the school lunches has been in the works for many years. If we can not only educate children about the proper nutrition, but to also provide these healthy tools to do so, that would be a great start, and we would cure about 80% of our problems. Also, awareness will be our biggest asset. I didn't fully know the severity of what was going on in America and its food until now. As I sat down to educate myself a little bit further on this topic, I was going to grab a bag of chips and some juice but after watching some of these lectures, I exchanged those for a glass of water and an apple. Now that we are aware of what is really going on in our food, we can start making healthier choices and fight back, and we can fight to not become a part of that statistic.